Okay, so have you heard about this whole thing with a major network maybe losing its license? Like, whoa, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, we're diving deep into this today. FCC Chair Brendan Carr, he says some interesting things about ABC and its license
Right.
and how it ties into Disney and their whole DEI thing, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
hmm
We're looking at a transcript from this Ring of Fire video on YouTube. They break it down and have a certain take on it.
Definitely a unique perspective.
Yes, we're going to unpack all this, the claims, what's going on behind the scenes, and like what it could mean for the media world in general.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation when you think about it. You've got this regulatory power clashing with how a huge company like Disney handles its own internal policies. And then you throw in the whole public debate around DEI. It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
Absolutely. And this is not just about one company, it's bigger than that. It makes you question how the government keeps an eye on the media and how social values are playing a bigger and bigger role in business.
It's a lot to think about. Okay, so first off, who are the players here? The video talks about Brendan Carr, spelled Brendan, and points out that he was appointed to the FCC by President Trump.
Right. First as a commissioner and then later as the chairman.
Right. And this all came out during a Fox News interview with Jackie Heinrich, it looks like.
Yeah, the transcript focuses on a specific question that Heinrich asked Carr. She brought up a probe into Disney's DEI policies, even quoting Disney's own senior counsel, who called it bullying and intimidation. Then she asked Carr point blank if the investigation was just about Disney's hiring or if it was about other stuff too.
Trying to get to the bottom of it.
Right, a very direct question about what the FCC was really interested in.
According to the transcript, Carr's response was pretty straightforward. He said, and I'm quoting here, yeah, this is about the hiring practices and their employment practices. He went on to explain that broadcasters like ABC have to follow federal law and FCC EEO rules, that's equal employment opportunity, and these rules say you can't make job decisions based on things like gender and race.
Right, and those EEO rules have been around for a while. Their purpose is to stop discrimination in the broadcasting industry. Basically, they want to make sure everyone has a fair chance to get a job regardless of their background. So Carr is basically saying his investigation is all about making sure those rules are being followed.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But this is where things get interesting, or at least that's how the video lays it out. Carr says he has evidence, and the transcript puts that word in air quotes like they're not so sure about it, suggesting that Disney and ABC have been making hiring decisions based on race and gender. He talks about race-defined affinity groups and quotas based on specific demographics.
Yeah, the video is definitely skeptical of Carr using the word evidence at this point. They point out that he uses softer language too, like potentially, and if the evidence does in fact play out.
Kind of hedging his bets a little.
Right, it implies that what he has might not be enough to prove anything yet. So the video offers a different way to look at what Carr is saying.
Interesting. The video really focuses on that lack of strong wording, like Carr is leaving himself an out. But then he goes on to say that this evidence does show discrimination based on race and gender. It could fundamentally go to their character qualifications for having a broadcast license. That seems like a huge jump, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a pretty big statement.
Yeah.
When the FCC looks at a broadcaster's character qualifications, they're considering a whole bunch of things, not just whether they can do the technical stuff or if they have enough money. It's more about whether the company is responsible enough to use public airwaves. And while claims of discrimination could be part of that, it's not very common for a major network to have its license threatened just because of that.
It's not a common occurrence. The transcript also mentions that Carr brought up President Trump's stance on DEI and his own actions at the FCC. He said the FCC stopped promoting DEI internally, claimed they were spending millions on it, and that it was a top priority for them. Seems like he's connecting his scrutiny of Disney's DEI to a bigger political idea.
Oh, absolutely. Carr bringing up the Trump administration's position and his own actions at the FCC is key here. It suggests that this whole focus on Disney's DEI might not just be about regulations, but about a certain ideology and opposition to these kinds of programs in general. And the fact that he specifically mentioned how much the FCC was spending on DEI and how important it was for them really drives that point home.
Yeah, it adds another layer to the whole thing. Now, the Ring of Fire video has a very different take on what's really going on. They see the threat to ABC's license isn't actually about making sure they follow DEI rules or about any violations. They think it might have something to do with Donald Trump's past issues with people in the corporate media world, specifically mentioning George Stephanopoulos in a lawsuit, as possible reasons for some bad blood with ABC's parent company.
Yeah, this is where the video gets more speculative and dives into the political side of things. They're suggesting that the concerns about DEI might just be a way to go after a media outlet that has criticized the Trump administration before. And bringing up the lawsuit with Stephanopoulos, even though they don't say it's the definite cause, paints a picture of possible lingering resentment towards the network's owner.
Yeah, I see what you mean. The transcript then compares this whole focus on DEI to past criticisms of affirmative action. They're saying the motivation behind it might be the same, a basic discomfort or opposition to anything that tries to increase diversity and inclusion, no matter what you call it or how you do it.
Right. It's like they're putting this scrutiny of DEI into a historical context. They're connecting it to these long-standing debates and pushback against policies aimed at fixing past inequalities. By bringing up affirmative action, the video is suggesting there's this consistent ideological thread that drives this kind of opposition.
So they're saying it's part of a bigger pattern. The video ends by saying this is all about weaponizing the opposition to DEI. They're arguing that the FCC's power is being used to potentially hurt ABC, not because of real violations, but because of these wider political and ideological fights. It's a pretty serious claim.
Yeah, the video definitely paints a pessimistic picture. It suggests that these regulations might be used for political reasons rather than to enforce the rules, and that a major media outlet could suffer because of it.
So just to recap, we dove deep into FCC Chair Brendan Carr's public statements about maybe taking away ABC's broadcast license, especially the claims about discriminatory DEI hiring at Disney. We also looked at the counterarguments and other explanations from the Ring of Fire video transcript, which is skeptical of the reasons given and suggests there might be political motivations and a bigger resistance to DEI overall.
This deep dive brings up an important question. Based on everything we talked about, what you think could happen to media companies in the future? And how will broadcast licenses be regulated? What does all this tell us about the current and often very heated debate about DEI in corporate America? And how might government agencies get more involved in these complicated issues?
It makes you think, for sure. We encourage you to think about these different viewpoints and learn more about how broadcasting is regulated and the ongoing and sometimes controversial discussions around diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a complex issue that could have a big impact on the media we all consume and the businesses that make it.
Absolutely. Lots to ponder.
Yeah, food for thought.